$800. That's what you paid for your iPhone. But if one company stutters, your next upgrade could cost 1,200 or not come at all. And it's not just your phone, because that same company powers Apple, NVIDIA, Tesla, Amazon's cloud, even the Pentagon's defense systems. It's called TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And over the last decade, they've done something no one's pulled off in modern capitalism. They cornered the world's most advanced technology by spending $100 billion to build the fastest, most complex chip factories Earth has ever seen. And now, everything runs on their machines, everyone depends on their timelines. And any delay nukes global tech. I know. Sounds like YouTube fear porn. It's not. I pulled data from TSMC earnings reports, Apple's supplier lists, and trade disclosures. The math checks out. The risk. Real. And here's the kicker. This isn't an accident. There's a mechanism. 3 steps. Step 1. Dominate the tech. Step 2. Lock in the customers. Step 3. Make the world build on top of your factory. And once you see it, you'll realize your iPhone isn't fragile because it's high-tech. It's fragile because we built it on a single point of failure. So here's the plan. First, I'll show you how TSMC pulled this off. Then the math on how fragile it really is. Next, who wins, who loses. And finally, what you can do before it costs you real money. Let's go. Okay, quick context. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. You've probably never seen their logo, but if you've ever used an iPhone, a MacBook, a Tesla, or literally anything with a brain inside it ran on one of their chips. 90%, that's how much of the world's most advanced chip production stuff below 7 nanometers flows through this one company. And not just through the company, through one island. Taiwan sounds insane, right? But it didn't used to be this way. Go back 20 years. The chip world was crowded. Intel, Samsung, Global Foundries, even IBM, everyone had skin in the game. But building cutting-edge fabs got stupidly expensive, like you need a national GDP expensive, so everyone else flinched. TSMC didn't. Instead, they went the opposite direction, doubled down, built the most advanced fabs in human history, spent over $100 billion in 10 years, and now? They're the only ones who can manufacture Apple's latest A-series chips, the only ones who can keep up with NVIDIA's GPU hunger and the rest of the world. They built around it, your iPhone, engineered for TSMC's 3 nanometers node. Your AI model, trained on GPUs made at TSMC, your ETFs, heavily weighted toward companies reliant on TSMC. Now here's where it gets sketchy. While reviewing Apple's 2023 Supplier Responsibility Report, I looked into their chip sourcing, the A17 chip. It's the engine of the iPhone 15 Pro. It's not mostly made in Taiwan. It's made in one place, Fab 18, a single plant in Tainan, Taiwan. So I thought, wait, that's gotta be wrong. Nope, TSMC confirmed it in their own disclosures. One fab. On one coastline, facing weekly military flyovers from China. That was my hold-up moment. Because if Fab 18 has a power outage, a water shortage, an earthquake, or a missile strike, Apple's entire flagship product line freezes, and with it, hundreds of billions in global market value. And that's just Apple. In a second, I'm going to show you how TSMC engineered this dominance. But more importantly, why it's so brittle. Because the monopoly isn't the real risk. It's the global dependency. And what happens if not when, if the factory ever stops? Alright, here's how this whole thing actually works. How TSMC became the most important company in the world, without most people realizing it, and how they turned that dominance into a global economic landmine. There are 3 steps, same playbook, every time, and once you see it, you'll never look at your iPhone or your portfolio the same way again. Step 1. Dominate the node. Let's start here. In chip making, the smaller the node, the better the chip. Smaller means faster, more efficient, and more transistors packed into the same space. We're talking nanometers, literally billionths of a meter. And right now, the bleeding edge is 3 nanometers. Problem is, building a 3 nanometers fab isn't just hard, it's economically insane. One fab costs up to $20 billion, and that's just construction. You still need ASML UV machines, 200 million each, and there is only one company on Earth that makes those. Most companies tapped out. Intel delayed its roadmap. Samsung couldn't scale yields. Global Foundries dropped out completely. TSMC didn't blink. Between 2018 and 2023, they dropped over $100 billion building out their 3 nanometers and 2 nanometers infrastructure. Built Fab 18 in Tainan, Fab 20 coming soon, Arizona Fab. In progress, delayed, but still moving. Today, TSMC is the only foundry reliably shipping 3 nanometers chips at commercial scale. That's monopoly power, but they didn't stop there. Step 2. Lock the customers once you own the tech. You don't just wait for orders, you lock in the pipeline. TSMC went to Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm and said, "You want access to 3 nanometers? Cool. Sign multi-year volume agreements. Commit 2x number of wafers per quarter. Oh, and we'll give you discounts." But only if you guarantee capacity usage. It worked. Apple became the first 3 nanometers customer exclusive access for the A17 chip. NVIDIA times its next-gen GPUs like Blackwell to TSMC's production windows. Even AMD and Intel now outsource their cutting-edge designs to TSMC. You seeing it? TSMC didn't just dominate the node, they created a dependency pipeline. Every major tech player is locked in by contract, by cost structure, by design. And that's how we get to step 3. Step 3. Let the world build on you. Here's where it gets wild. The iPhone isn't just assembled in China. It's engineered around TSMC's node roadmap. Apple's chip teams design silicon years in advance, knowing exactly what TSMC's node will support. No TSMC. No A17, no A18, no future iPhone. Same with NVIDIA. They don't just design GPUs, they slot them into TSMC's production windows. AI startups then raise capital based on how many GPUs they can access, many of which are booked years out. Even Tesla uses TSMC for their full self-driving chips. Even Amazon's server chips, Graviton, trace back to TSMC and the US military. Some of its most sensitive weapons, guided missiles, communication systems rely on chips fabbed in Taiwan. That's the stack. One company at the bottom, the entire tech economy on top. Let's do some math. One Fab 18 produces the 3 nanometers wafers used in Apple's A17 chip, among others, according to Bloomberg and industry estimates. That fab alone accounts for 35 billion in annual wafer output. But the downstream product value devices those chips power? Easily $160 billion plus per year. That means, if Fab 18 goes offline for 1 week, earthquake, fire, cyber attack, that's a $3 billion global revenue hit, minimum, every 7 days. And that doesn't count stock drops, lost market cap, delayed launches. Now you might think, okay, so shift production somewhere else. Let's walk through that. Moving Apple's chip production out of Taiwan would require $30 to $40 billion in fab investment, 5 to 7 years of construction, training, yield tuning, a 30-40 increase in per chip costs. Apple won't eat that cost. Neither will you. They'll pass it to the consumer or delay launches, which means they don't move. They stay tied to TSMC, and so do you. Now here's the real hidden cost, the multiplier. This isn't just about one chip, because that chip is now time itself. An iPhone delay equals Apple misses a quarterly earnings window equals $40 billion market cap loss. A GPU delay equals open AI pauses training equals every AI startup halts equals investors freak out. A Tesla chip shortage equals autopilot rollout stalls equals regulatory delays equals stock dip. All of that from one building on an island, facing constant geopolitical tension. Wild. And here's where it really hits home if you own Apple stock. NVIDIA? Tesla? If you bought a tech-heavy ETF? If your retirement fund is growth-focused? You're exposed. Even if you've never heard of TSMC, your money knows them. And if they sneeze, your portfolio catches the flu. Let's go even deeper. Because if you think this is all worst-case scenario stuff, let me show you what already has happened. Case study. Taiwan water crisis 2021. TSMC's fabs require 63,000 tons of ultra-pure water per day. That's not a metaphor, that's literal. In 2021, Taiwan had its worst drought in 56 years. Reservoirs hit 10% capacity. No rain for months. So what happened? TSMC had to truck in water, like actual fleets of water trucks. Chip yield fell. Delivery schedules slipped. Apple and NVIDIA didn't say much, but lead times extended, and behind the scenes, TSMC began rerouting orders. Smaller customers got pushed. Big ones paid more to keep priority. Now picture that, but with bombs instead of dry weather. Geopolitical pressure cooker. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory. Taiwan disagrees. The US kinda sorta backs Taiwan, and in between all that, TSMC. It's not a stretch to say that TSMC is the biggest deterrent to full-blown invasion. Why? Because if China takes Taiwan, TSMC fabs likely go dark. And if that happens, the entire global economy goes dark with it. Think that's an exaggeration? Okay, let's play it out. Scenario: Fab 18 shut down for 1 month. Apple delays the iPhone 16 Pro launch. Stock drops 12% equals $400 billion lost market cap. Nvidia can't ship GPUs to OpenAI. Meta, Amazon AI training stalls equals funding dries up. Startups pause. Hiring equals layoffs. Cascade index funds take a 15% hit. Retirement portfolios dip for tens of millions. And here's the kicker: that's from just 30 days of downtime. No war, no missiles, just a plant outage. Now imagine real conflict. So, why no redundancy? Simple economics. It's just cheaper to keep everything in Taiwan. Talent is concentrated, supply chain is local, government subsidies are massive. Margins stay at building fabs in Arizona. Costs 2-3x more than in Tainan. TSMC already complained that US workers aren't fast or trained enough. Their Arizona plant is already delayed by over 2 years, and even when it's done, it won't support 3 nanometers production, just older 5 nanometers nodes. Translation: there is no real backup, and they know it. And yet, nobody's talking about it because here's the thing. TSMC isn't just a company. It's an invisible dependency. Every quarterly earnings call, they say diversification, supply chain resilience, multi-sourcing. But when you trace the silicon back, it all ends in Taiwan. This isn't paranoia. It's concentration risk in financial terms. It's when your entire portfolio depends on one asset, only here. The asset is a factory on a politically fragile island, surrounded by military jets, that makes chips smaller than viruses, that run your economy and your phone. Coming up, I'll show you exactly who profits from this monopoly, and exactly who gets screwed if it breaks. Hint, one of those is you. Let's talk about winners and losers, because while TSMC's dominance might look like a technological marvel, it's also a loaded financial trap. And when the music stops, someone's portfolio, someone's job, someone's phone is going to get hit. First up, the winners. TSMC is the obvious one. They charge premium prices for access to their bleeding-edge chip nodes, and their gross margins on those 3 nanometers and 5 nanometers wafers? Around 60%. Most manufacturers scrape by on 5 to 10. Not these guys. In 2023, TSMC cleared over $20 billion in profit. That's more than Boeing, more than General Electric, and all from chips you can't even see without a microscope. Then there's Apple and Nvidia. They locked in early, signed long-term wafer supply contracts, got discount pricing in exchange for committing to huge volumes. It worked. Apple got exclusive access to the A17 chip for the iPhone 15 Pro. Nvidia synced their GPU roadmap to TSMC's 5 nanometers node, and suddenly their H100 is the hottest compute engine in the world. These companies didn't just buy chips, they bought guaranteed launch windows, which translates to market share and stock price. Taiwan's economy is a massive winner too. TSMC contributes as much as 15% of the country's entire GDP. One company. That's like if Apple was responsible for the entire Midwest. Foreign investment pours in. Global leaders fly to Taipei just to shake hands with chip execs. TSMC isn't just a business, it's Taiwan's leverage. Now let's talk about who loses. Start with the obvious. That iPhone in your hand? The one you waited in line for or financed over 24 months? It's priced based on chip scarcity. When TSMC hits yield issues, or when Apple buys up all the early 3 nanometers supply, your phone costs more. Not because it's better, but because supply is bottlenecked, that Pro chip inside. It's fabbed in a single facility. And any hiccup in that line becomes your fragility tax, an extra $100 to $300 at checkout. Next, your investments. If you own Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, Amazon, or just a plain no less than S&P 500 ETF, you're exposed. Every one of those companies is tethered to TSMC's production schedule, a fab shutdown, and you're looking at a 10 to 30% drawdown in tech-heavy indexes. That hits your 401k, that hits your Roth, that hits your retirement. And if you're a startup founder or a small AI shop, you're not even on TSMC's priority list. When wafer demand spikes, the big clients go first. Smaller companies get bumped or forced to use older, less efficient nodes. That means worse performance, delayed launches, higher costs, which leads to slower growth, missed funding rounds, layoffs. Here's the part no one wants to talk about. Even the Pentagon is on the losing end. U.S. military contractors rely on TSMC for high-performance chips used in guidance systems, communications, even weapons platforms. If Taiwan goes dark, those chips go with it. That's not just a tech crisis, that's a national security issue. And yet there's no real backup, no full duplication of TSMC's capabilities anywhere else. The Arizona fab? Behind schedule, not even doing 3 nanometers, Europe's plans? Still on paper, and by the time those fabs come online, TSMC will be 2 nodes ahead. So to sum it up, TSMC wins, big tech wins, Taiwan wins. You lose, your portfolio loses, startups lose, the military loses, and the system. It stays exactly as designed because it's efficient until it breaks. Fast forward to right now, January 2026. Let's take a look at where we actually are. Apple's current flagship chip, the A17 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro, is still only being made in Taiwan. Not in Texas, not in Arizona, not even in South Korea, just one location, TSMC's Fab 18. The Arizona fab everyone's been hyping? It was supposed to be the beginning of diversification, but it's already 2 years behind schedule. And even when it opens in 2027, it's not doing 3 nanometers production, at best. You're getting legacy nodes, no A-series chips, no H100 class GPUs, no game changers. Meanwhile, the U.S. CHIPS Act promised $39 billion in subsidies to bring chip making back home. Sounds like a lot, right? Until you realize that TSMC alone is spending over $100 billion just to maintain its lead. The math doesn't work. America's playing catch up with half a gas tank. Now layer in geopolitics. China's been ramping up military activity around Taiwan, dozens of warplanes crossing the median line every week. Naval drills, cyber attacks, GPS spoofing. This isn't just saber rattling, it's a pressure campaign, and Taiwan knows it. TSMC knows it, the Pentagon knows it, and yet tech earnings calls still sound like everything's fine. Let's zoom into just one recent moment, January 2026. Fab 14, another major TSMC facility, experienced a water purity issue. Result, production yields dropped by 325%. Publicly, TSMC called it within normal operational variance. But guess what? Apple quietly delayed the MacBook refresh by 6 weeks. NVIDIA pushed back its mid-cycle GPU restock, and quietly, wafer spot prices jumped. No headlines, no stock drops, but behind the scenes, billions in adjustments. That's how fragile this system really is. Now here's where it gets personal. If you own Apple stock, you are exposed to TSMC's operational risk. If you hold NVIDIA, you're exposed. If you hold any tech-heavy ETF, QQ, VGT, are exposed. You just don't see it broken out in the risk disclosures. And even if you don't invest at all, even if you just buy an iPhone every 2 years, you're still paying the cost, delayed launches, thinner availability, higher prices. And no, that's not just inflation. That's fragility priced in. The real danger isn't that TSMC is doing something wrong. The danger is that it's doing everything right and still. The system is brittle because it was built on scale, not resilience. You don't need a war to break it. You just need one factory, one fab to miss a beat, and the entire stack wobbles. Coming up next, I'll show you exactly what you can do right now to reduce your exposure. Whether you're an investor, a builder, or just someone trying to upgrade their phone without paying the monopoly tax. Alright, so what can you actually do? You're not going to move chip fabrication off an island. You're not going to outbid Apple for wafer supply. But that doesn't mean you're powerless. Here are 3 moves that can seriously reduce your exposure to price spikes, portfolio risk, and fragile launch cycles. Step 1. Audit your portfolio. If you're invested in any tech-heavy ETFs like QQ, VGT, dig into the holdings, you'll find Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, and Amazon all clustered at the top, and all of them heavily dependent on TSMC. The overlap is bigger than you think. It is not diversification if your entire basket crashes when one company's fab hits a delay. If you're not ready to dump tech entirely, fine, but you can shift some weight into funds with broader exposure, global infrastructure, energy, or even less tech-concentrated dividend stocks. The goal isn't to abandon growth, it's to hedge against a very specific, very real fragility. Step 2. Track the early warning signals. Don't wait for CNBC to break the story. By then, it's already in the price. Instead, keep an eye on leading indicators. TSMC's own earnings reports will tell you fab capacity and capital expenditures. ASML shipment logs hint at which fabs are gearing up. Taiwan's Central Weather Bureau. Monitor drought alerts water supply hits chip yield directly. And for the real-time edge? Twitter, Reddit, and Taiwanese news sources often surface fab incidents before Bloomberg picks them up. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Step 3. Delay your hardware upgrades. This sounds simple, but it's powerful. When Apple or NVIDIA face chip delays, they often launch on schedule but with lower inventory and higher prices. If you buy within the first 60 days, You're paying the fragility tax, the premium that comes from just-in-time supply chain risk. But if you wait 3 to 4 months after launch, prices normalize, supply stabilizes, and you avoid paying extra just because one fab hiccuped in October. That's it. 3 steps. Rebalance, monitor, delay. None of them are glamorous. But together, they could save you thousands over the next decade in price hikes avoided, portfolio drawdowns dodged, and unnecessary stress skipped. Now, if this video showed you something you didn't know, here's what you can do next. Drop a comment. What's your exposure to TSMC? Is your phone, your fund, or your job tethered to that factory in Taiwan? Share this video. Not for me, for everyone who blindly trusts their iPhone will show up on launch day. For every investor who thinks tech stocks are bulletproof. For anyone who thinks global supply chains mean resilience. And don't take my word for it. All the sources, all the numbers, all the math, it's in the description. Verify it yourself. Because in next week's video, we're breaking down Apple's Vietnam bet, the backup supply chain they're not talking about, and why one typhoon could delay your iPhone even after TSMC ships the chip. See you next week.